Hi, you guys. It's Beth Murphy. I hope you're doing well. I think we turned a corner here in Connecticut with winter. My yard is still full of snow, but it's been sunny for a while. And I don't know about you, but that it gives me life. I don't know how else to explain it. It's invigorating. And it's something that I kind of need because I just take a lot of downtime if I'm cold or it's dark for a while. And I've been ingesting large quantities of information. That's what I'm doing over here. I'm just warm on my couch and I'm just like devouring it. I don't know how else to put it. But that's how all the good stuff will get in me and start churning around, and it puts pieces together. And that's why I do what I do. You know, I spend a lot of time studying the things I study, and then I think it's my INFJness that kind of marries it all together. And I don't know why I'm doing it. You know, it's like my destiny, but here I am. So anyway, I was connecting with one of my INFJ subscribers, and because it's easy to lose touch, you know, as an introvert. It's just easier to not talk sometimes. But we do have to still come out of our shell, and we have to connect. And I'm always reminded of that at the gym. The girls want to do stuff. And they pick on me because they know I'm waiting till the last second. And yeah, I am. I have to see how I feel. I'm not going to say yes to everything. What am I, crazy? No, I have to read the energy. I don't know how I'm going to feel. Yada, yada, yada. So anyway, something I've kind of had in my notes is how I felt as a kid. Because I've asked you guys, you know, what would you like to hear about? Or what would you like me to bring up? So you guys can think about it or discuss it with each other. And I'm still going to do a video about someone asked how it felt to find out what in the context of all the other humans, what I was, what you are. And I did start to make that video a couple weeks ago, and it got cut off. And it kind of bummed me out because I was like in my zone, getting in my zone, and then I didn't feel like, fixing it. I didn't really know how to make that feeling come back. Because if I'm going to create something, it's coming from where I'm at. And if I'm not like up and my cup runneth over and feel like sharing, I'm not going to create. That's just how I roll. So I never finished that video, but that is a good question, and I would like to share that. But it also, in the back burner, I've had how did it feel as a child? Because when I look back now from this more expanded adult place where I've got a chance to meet all the other types, I realize I must have looked like a weird little kid, right? And weird is a term of endearment, because I think it's more interesting to be weird. But back then, it's like, oh, no wonder I kind of stuck out and I didn't really fit in. And, now I'm an adult. I know how to play the game. And, you kind of read the room. I try to tell people, read the room. Because even I got to my 30s before I even had an understanding of what the room entailed, But as a kid, you don't know anything. You just come in, you're yourself, and then until people start kind of trying to coax you out of it. But I thought about a few different things that popped out in my memory that seemed odd. I have 6 of them, and what's very funny to me is I am crying in 50% of them. And I kind of had to sort through some of my memories, because I think at one point I was crying in like almost all but one. And I didn't want to be a bummer. I try to keep it light here. Light but real. So real looks like me crying in 50% of them. And here I am in, let me see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I was in 3rd grade. So some of this stuff was happening. Some of it would happen a couple years later. All right, here we go. I talked enough. Let's just get right in it. And here's my notes so I wouldn't forget. Sun. Okay. So I remember in grammar school, so this would be K through 6, I had the same bus ride and the same bus driver and everything the same. And I was also the same. The way that I handled the bus ride was I sat in my seat and I leaned my head on the window. So this would be the side of my head, and closed my eyes, and I liked the way the sun would come through my closed eyes, so it would come through my eyelids, because it would make bright stars. And even hearing it now, of course I was weird. I mean, the other kids, I don't know what they were doing, but I'm guessing they were talking or playing or even sitting quietly or looking out the window, but they probably weren't really doing what they wanted to do. And that is what I wanted to do, obviously. And that's pretty much what I did every day. I never talked to anyone that entire 7 years. Okay, so that's that story. Frog story. The frog story stood out because I thought, all right, I don't think the majority of children were doing this. When I was a kid, back in the 80s or whatever, we had, I don't know, some of you are from different countries, Band-Aids. This is a brand, but there's those little, the little strips you put for the wounds. But back then they used to come in a metal box, and if you're not old enough, you would not know that, because now they come in a paper box. But back then we had really cool containers. Everything wasn't throwaway, it was made of glass and metal and stuff, so it's kind of cool. But so the box had a flip up top, and now I told you that to tell you this. I was outside, goofing around. I spent a lot of time outside, and I think my mom did that to get me out of the house. I would say I was bored all the time, which I think is a sign of intelligence. And my mom would say one of two things: ride your bike or ride your swing, alternately. Verbatim, ride your bike, ride your swing. So I spent all my time outside, and I found I'm not very good at drawing. I found a dead frog. Yep, a dead frog. And I guess I decided it needed a burial. Don't you feel sorry for me? So I went in the house and I combined a couple Band-Aid boxes so I could take one. I think this is pretty involved for a little kid. And then I came out and I guess I slipped him in the Band-Aid box and closed the little metal top and dug a hole and put him in and put the dirt back over. And I don't really remember if I maybe had some reflections or something. I did go to church back then, so who knows what happened. But I did this all by myself too. What a lonely little pursuit for a little kid. So that's a frog story. And here's the bird story. And this is one of the crying ones. I found a dead bird. It had flown into the window, so I was just standing there crying, and my dad saw me and he came over, and it was very sweet because he was a quiet person, sensitive but quiet, and this was really not a comfortable position for him to normally be in. But there's a time or two in my life when he really stepped forward and was vulnerable. That's a good word for it. So this was probably one of the two times that I can think of. And he explained that this was part of life, and he made it sound really good. Like, this is just normal. This is, a circle. This is perfectly acceptable. It's fine. And he did make me feel better, I guess. But anyway, I think that was kind of, although maybe a lot of children are sensitive, I don't know. I think a lot of kids just aren't that deep. I don't know that they would stand there and cry. So that's why I added that one in. This one says Andy. And I was a young person. I'd go with my parents to church on a Sunday. And then the treat afterwards for that was we would go to breakfast. So that was nice. And I was actually a little bit older. I wasn't a little kid for this one. But in a booth, we were still waiting for a table. But in a booth, and we could see that from our vantage point, there was a gentleman, older gentleman, sitting by himself. Oh my God, I feel like I'm going to cry again. Listen, it's fine. At the end of the story, it's fine. But he was sitting there and he was saying, if anyone would like to join me, they're welcome to. And he kind of just kept repeating that. And he was blind. So you can imagine what that would do to an empathic kid. And we ended up passing him and taking our seat. And then I could still hear him kind of doing this. And he had to do it because he was blind. He couldn't see if there was people in line, but he wanted them to know that they were welcome to sit on the other side of him. And I just bawled, because I thought he was lonely. It still bothers me. I thought he was lonely, and it was just killing me. And my dad said, no, that's Andy. Everyone knows Andy. He's just offering. And my dad had said, if you were to sit and talk with him, he would tell you that he feels blessed. And even that makes me want to cry. It doesn't matter if I'm happy or sad. And so I kind of had to absorb that. I wasn't really sure I should believe what my dad was saying, because sometimes they would just try to say stuff to make me feel better. Looking back now, I can understand why. I think I cried a lot. But I had the opportunity to give him a ride in my teenage years when I was driving. And he just made his way through life off the kindness of others. He'd see him in town and people would give him a lift. And he was just a jovial person. Like, he really was okay. But anyway, so this is just an example of the empathy and just like, gut-wrenching. But in fact, I didn't have all the facts. So there's even a lesson in that, right? I didn't have all the facts, and my imagination was thinking the worst. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, so on to number number 5. Now, this is a strange little kid story for sure. And it kind of, now I see why I had like little friends, few friends. I mean, what are you going to do with this little kid that says something like this? So I was playing with my neighbor. He was a full year older than me. We were in the same class, but my parents didn't do the smart thing that you should do with children, which is if they're on the cusp age-wise, just wait till the next year to start your kid so he can be smart. Because I was a year behind, and it showed. I mean, having my neighbor, growing up with him, you could really tell the difference, because I started kindergarten. I was really 4, and he was like almost, 6. So anyway, I remember asking him, are you ready for this? I don't know how old I was. Probably, I could have been 9. I could have been 11. I don't really remember. But I said, if your mom and your dad were drowning, who would you save first? Like, who do you like better? And he just looked at me like a person should, which is, what is wrong with you? Like, how am I supposed to answer that, And he was utterly normal, like no quirks, no weirdness. He was brought up, no issues, no drama or anything. Like, I had a lot of that. And so that was kind of we didn't really stay friends. The crevice only like grew and grew from that point. But I think that was a very weird thing to say. I don't even know why I said it. I must have been having some opinions like about who I would pick if they were my parents, because they didn't really care for me, and I guess I'm not surprised. Anyway, all right, so we're on to the last one. Sunday. I remember my mom would stay home on Sundays and make Sunday dinner, and my dad would go like do his stuff. Okay, so my mom would stay home and cook, and my dad would go visit family, and then also this culminated in a bar visit. So I had the option of staying home with my mom, and I remember the day in question, she would stay home and make homemade macaroni and like lay it all out on the table, so it's kind of a lot of labor. And my dad, I could go with him on Sundays as well, and then I would hang out with my little cousins of my age, and then my dad would come back and get me after he was done doing his thing, visiting with his friends. But I remember standing in the kitchen. My dad is like in the porch, ready to go. My mom's doing her pasta, and I'm in the center here, and I'm trying to figure out if I am going with my dad or staying home with my mom. Okay, this happened every Sunday. It should not have been such a big deal, but I just burst into tears. As if they cared. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way, but like, they don't care which place I go to. But this is just kind of an example of like, this is what's all laid on us as part of our makeup. It's so layered. Like, I had guilt. Little kids aren't supposed to have guilt, but nobody was even doing it to me. I mean, I came in with a lot of this stuff. Just crazy guilt. Like, some of this stuff, sometimes I wonder if it's from past lives, certainly, because I even have very old memories of being a little kid and just feeling guilty, like if I wrecked one of my toys or, but anyway, that guilt for that particular day was only worried about them, not even really thinking about myself, like, oh, who should I spend time with? I don't want anyone to be sad. And it's not like they were getting divorced or anything. They were very happy. Nobody cared. Again, no one cared what I did. But obviously I cared because everything was like so big and important to me. Oh, I thought of it. You know what? Let me end on the 7th one. Because this one's nice. And I think you guys might have done this. You see what I'm drawing here? They're stars. Did you guys lay on the ground and look up at the sky? I spent a lot of time doing that as a kid. I would sit in my snowsuit until the snow seeped in and, got me wet, and then that would send me in the house. But that's another thing, like, what do you think my parents were thinking? Perfectly normal people, not INFJs. Looking out the window and seeing their kid laying, completely in the snow, just laying there. They probably had to wonder if I was okay, but nobody ever asked me. I mean, they must have seen that I was alive. But that's what I was doing. I was just looking at the stars. I don't even remember having any thoughts, you know? So some of this stuff is a little dramatic. Like, I definitely had a dramatic childhood. Not all my INFJ friends did. Okay? Some of them are kind of normal. I have a lot of INFJ friends, and I do ask them questions. Some of them are sort of normal, but basically, we're doing this weird stuff. Most of us are doing weird things. Or we're goofing around with Ouija boards, or, we're like doing something that is pretty typical. But you guys have to tell me. Otherwise, it's just me over here. Yeah, I have views or subscribers and stuff, but unless you're interacting with me, it's as if I have nothing. Like, I know in your head you are, but yes, you actually do have to like hit the like button. And I feel stupid even saying that, because it's not like you can hire businesses to ask subscribers to, you ask them to do things, you ask them to go find you on Twitter and all this other stupid stuff that doesn't resonate with me. But just me personally, yes, I do need engagement. Otherwise, I feel like maybe what I do isn't necessary, But I'm just trying to kind of show you, like, yeah, we're weird. I definitely think that we do weird things. And I don't think I'm alone in this, but you guys can tell me. You can tell me your weird stories. We're not that big, so I write back to you, as you've seen. And you all are pretty nice, so you seem to write to each other, which is always fun to hold that platform for. All right, so that's it. I still owe you some stories, and I'll do them. I have to be in the right frame of mind, but this was just an easy one because I didn't have to make anything up. I'm just remembering my past in front of you, so it was very easy. All right, so thank you guys. It was nice to hang out with you again, and I will talk to you shortly. All right, bye.